morning and welcome to the LNG Marketplace Weekly News Flash. Here's the latest news we have selected for you from all over the media. Two LNG proponents, Woodfibre and Pieridae, on both sides of Canada's coastlines are inching towards final investment decisions. Some analysts claim that the Canadian industry slowly might challenge major gas rivals Australia and Russia. Woodfibre will primarily export to the Asian market, while Pieridae's strategy is to help the Germans get off the Russian gas. Nova Scotia base of operations means a delivery time of 6 days to markets in Germany, the UK, and the Netherlands, faster than the US or Russia can offer, as we read on the Financial Post. Is hydrogen the new LNG? No doubt that hydrogen is increasingly being seen as alternative to LNG and other fossil fuels. However, in the report, The Future of Hydrogen, the International Energy Agency claims that the cost advantage of fossil fuels will probably continue in most places and that the cheapest source of hydrogen will still be more expensive than natural gas in 2030. This piece of information we have found on oil price. Asian LNG prices rose this week on some demand for summer cargoes, while European prices continue to drop due to high gas storage levels. The increased price spread between the two regions are making some producers consider re-exporting cargoes to more profitable regions like Asia or the Mediterranean. In addition, trading houses and utilities are discussing reloads in Europe as stated on Finance Yahoo. The LNG spot prices moved somewhat higher in the wake of attacks on two tankers in the Gulf of Oman. However, the reaction wasn't as pronounced as the spike in global market oil benchmark Brent. It is so as Qatar sells very little of its output on the spot market, thus there is no threat to immediate supplies. Also, the paper-traded market for LNG is small and less subject to the influence of speculators. LNG traders are aware that presently chances of the passage being blocked are small. However, if it was the case, the LNG market would genuinely be worried due to potential loss of a quarter of global supplies. We read this on Hellenic Shipping News. Russia's largest LNG producer, Novatek, sold 10% stake in its future Arctic LNG 2 plant to Japan's Mitsui and state-backed JOGMEC. The agreement appears to finalize Novatek's search for partners in the project and broadens Japan's access to Russian LNG. The Russian company retains 60% of the Arctic LNG 2 plant. Novatek's Arctic project will help Russia to become a leading exporter by 2030, as we have found on Bloomberg. Philippines' first-gen corporation, once starts to import LNG, is planning to expand the country's LNG market by a small scale by road tankers transporting LNG to industrial consumers and through small ships to the islands. Catering to smaller end users could start with 1,000 cubic meter vessels, as we have read on Manila Bulletin. 7 LNG imports surge across the Indian subcontinent. Government policies are driving demand for LNG in India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan to help maintain growing populations and economies. Much of the growth will be driven by the industrial sector, especially for fertilizers. There is also a push for the use of compressed natural gas, CNG, for transportation, as states LNG World Shipping. South Korean shipbuilders are in a race to win orders for ice-breaking ships which would transport liquefied natural gas under Russia's Arctic LNG 2 project, despite business risks caused by Russia's proposal that construction should be done in its territory. Russia, as a major producer, aims to export LNG as much as Qatar, and this is stated on Hellenic Shipping News. Ankala Partners has acquired a 50% interest in Dragon LNG regasification terminals in Wales. The stake was sold for an undisclosed amount by Petronas LNG. Dragon LNG is one of the 3 LNG regasification terminals in the UK, as we read on IPE. L&T Maritime completes containment system trials aboard Saga Dawn, verifying that the L&T A-Box concept is a viable solution for flexible LNG carriers. The L&T A-Box system is based on proven technologies but in a novel patent-protected configuration. The design is based on an independent tank Type A, states LNG World News. And last but not least, the Japanese government plans to push domestic LNG importers to participate in portfolio trading. Tokyo Gas and Japanese joint venture JERA are among those that have secured destination-free volumes under new deals with countries like Malaysia, the UAE, Canada, and Mozambique, which can be built into the LNG portfolio for trading purposes. Japan's unclear LNG demand outlook is also boosting the significance of portfolio trading for the country's utilities, which aims to optimize their LNG purchases, as we read on Argus Media. That's it for this week. Tune in next week for more news, and until then, thanks for tuning in.